People often ask me what bikes I recommend. When it comes to commuters, for the last couple of years I've been recommending certain bikes out of a few, one of which being the Euphree Solar Falcon. It was just a really well done commuter from a small company based out of Texas. And now they're back with a new commuter. This one's a lighter, sleeker version, and it's called the Euphree Solar Sparrow. This one's got some really cool features like the unifork up-front suspension, the Gates carbon belt drive, and the ability to switch between torque or cadence sensor while you ride your bike. No need to pick either one before you purchase. So how does it execute in the real world, and what are all the rest of the specs? Well, stick around and let's do a deep dive on the new Euphree Solar Sparrow. Alright guys, so the new Euphree Solar Sparrow. This is priced at $18.99 and it is a commuter style e-bike, almost a Dutch city style e-bike with those sweatback Dutch bars. Now it's priced, like I said, $18.99 and it's safety certified by SGS to UL 2849 and UL 2271 safety standards. Now this bike is class 3 capable up to 28 miles an hour and has a throttle or pedal assist. And like I said in the intro, you also get a torque and cadence sensor that you can switch between in the display. So you can use either one, try both out, see what works best for you. It's just a nice feature to have, as many people are kind of on the fence whether they want a torque sensor or a cadence sensor. This just lets you have them both and lets you figure it out on the go, which is a really nice feature. Now in terms of sizing, this is a one size fits most from 4'11 all the way up to 5'10. Now, I'm 5'11", so this is what I was sent because they don't have any other frame sizes, and you might be wondering how it fit me because I'm about an inch outside of that range. Well, it fit just fine. I had no problems riding the bike. I was comfortable on the bike. I will say I found that lifting up the handlebars just a little bit to bring up that reach for me, because as I sat a little bit taller than their fit range, made a lot of sense. And having that 90-degree adjustable stem up front really goes a long way in helping you find a fit that works for you. But even at 5'11", just outside of their fit range, capping off at 5'10", I found it to be fitting me just fine, although it felt a tad bit small, but nothing that got in the way of a nice ride, and I never felt uncomfortable. So something to keep in mind if you're kind of close to that edge and concerned about your sizing. Now, when it comes to things like colors, this is the Americano, kind of a coffee brown color. It's got nice metallic flake in it, a nice glossy finish, and it looks really nice, almost like a car's paint job. They're really solid paint jobs, and from what I remember of the Solar Falcon, that was the same situation there. Just a really nice looking bike with vibrant, just good glossy paint jobs that I think just look really nice. Now they also, if you don't like the Americano, they have several other, like 4 other color options. So they've got a blue, an orange, like a violet purple, and an ivy green color. So really just whatever color fits your style or mood, they have something that should work for you. Now when it comes to things like the geo numbers for the frame, our wheelbase from rear hub to front hub or vice versa is going to be 44 inches. We have a 16-inch reach up top, but don't take that to heart because at the end of the day, it's got a 90-degree adjustable stem, so you can really just move that reach around based on your specific arm reach and what's comfortable for you. But generally speaking, I'd say the middle ground is about 16 inches. Now you also have 6 inches of adjustment in the seat post, and as you'll notice, and we'll talk about later, it's got a nice SR Suntour NCX suspension seat post that goes a long way in adding to the comfort. When it comes to wheels and tires, we do have 26-inch alloy wheels. They are a black alloy with chrome spokes. And then the tire is a 26 by 2.4 Kenda Quick. Now, I really like this tire. It's got some decent tread on it for keeping traction on wet pavement, rainy days. Those are the days then where slick tires might feel really fast and smooth, but you still want some traction to be able to maintain traction in cornering or braking, and that's where these tires really do shine. Now, they also have nice reflective sidewalls, so if you're riding early in the evening, late at night, things like that, you will still be seen by traffic who may come from the side. It's going to show with their headlights those 2 rolling reflective strips, and it actually goes a long way in that side visibility. Now, speaking of other visibility options, we also have a 200 lux adjustable headlight up front with a rear tail light built into the rear rack. Now, this tail light has like a flashing mode, and it really goes a long way in helping you be seen by traffic, especially from the rear end when you're riding. Now, in addition to that tail light, it's mounted to this rear rack. This rear rack is very similar to like an MIK. It's a modular rack system that allows you to attach certain accessories and gear like this metal basket, which if you just stick the key in the slot here, there's also a handle. You can pick this basket up, unlock it off the bike, carry it with you. Say you're at the farmer's market or you're doing a picnic or you just want to carry some stuff with you. This is a really nice just addition to the rear rack. And this rear rack system has several other accessories that you can just add to, lock things in place, and it gives you some flexibility in what type of gear you take rather than just being able to strap something to a rear rack. This gives you some nice secure modularity to kind of let you do what you really want to do with your rear rack. Now, when it comes to fenders, we do have both front and back fenders. They are metal fenders, good supports, and I never heard them rattling. They feel very solid in their place, so no complaints there. All right, so let's talk about power and power delivery. So back in the rear hub, we have a Bafang rear hub motor. Now, it's nominally rated at 500 watts, and it pumps out 75 Newton meters of torque. Now, on a bike like this that weighs right around upper 50s, basically 60 pounds-ish, this is a really solid combo that, while 500 watts may sound like not much, it may not be much on a 4-inch fat tire bike that weighs north of 80, 90 pounds, but on a bike in the 50 to 60 pound range, 75 Newton meters of torque with this 500 watt motor, it is extremely sufficient. Of course, it's not a performance bike. It's not going to be a speed demon, but it's very peppy, very quick, and I never felt like I needed more acceleration or more power out of this bike, and it even handles hills really well. Now, you'll see that when we go on a ride in just a minute. I'll tackle a couple of hills as you go with me, but just know that this setup is extremely sufficient, and I never felt like it was underpowered. It's a really nice combo for a bike of this weight. Now, this motor also has some nice features. So we have 4 levels of pedal assist and throttle. Now, I found the throttle in factory mode, the way it was shipped to me, went all the way to 24 miles an hour, which is a nice touch. And some people will really like that, and other people will want less, which of course you can adjust that down the road. Now, also we have dual sensors. So people often say, should I get a torque sensor? Should I get a cadence sensor? Well, you have both here, and you could easily switch between either one at any time in the display. It's a very simple, just few second process to switch those. And then you can play with either one while you're riding it. And based on the type of riding you're doing, maybe you're carrying a bunch of groceries in the back and you've got some extra weight here and you just want immediate power, well, then a cadence sensor makes sense. Or maybe you want to just maximize that range and take it easy, and so you go with a torque sensor for just some mild pedaling assistance and a more natural feel. That's just going to be a strong point for the torque sensor. So really, you can just tailor it to whatever you're doing for the day, or you can leave it in one and leave it that way forever. You just have all the power here, and that's a nice choice for owners. Now, when it comes to things like the battery, we've got a 48-volt battery fully integrated into the down tube. This battery is SGS certified to UL 2271 standard, so you've got that safety reassurance there, and it's easily removable from the down tube. Now, I didn't bring the keys today, but it's a very straightforward process. You're just going to pop the key in the key slot there up on the top right of that down tube, release that lower black tab in the center, and the battery pops right out, which is good for off-the-bike charging, taking it off for security purposes, whatever you need to do with it. It's a really simple, straightforward process. Now, the battery itself, 48 volts, 10.5 amp hours, giving us 504 watt hours of power for our rides. And you may be wondering what that equates to in terms of range. Well, they say you can get up to 50 miles on this bike with a single charge. So of course, I did 2 runs of a test. I did a minimum assistance on eco mode and a maximum assistance on turbo mode. Now, in turbo mode, going full bore, full blast, all power on a relatively closed path from public traffic, so not really any stopping or starting, basically flat, maybe a few hundred feet of elevation, pretty ideal standards, and I'm about 180 pounds. I was still able to get 24 miles on full blast power, but when I dialed it back to eco mode and took things slow, around 10, 11 miles an hour, I was able to stretch out to 56 miles. Now, that's a few hours of riding without stopping, so that's a lot of range for most people that I think will be more than enough. Now, in terms of warranty on the battery and the whole bike itself, the bike you see, along with electrical components, the battery, the motor, these have a 2-year warranty. Now, the cool thing about Euphree is the frame itself has a lifetime warranty, so you get a little bit extra peace of mind in that frame warranty as well. Other than that, it did really good in its range. The power and battery combo is very sufficient for this, and I feel like for a city bike at a lighter weight, this was kind of a home run. It's not overweighted, it's not overpowered, but it feels like it's got everything you need, so really a job well done in the terms of power. All right, so let's talk components. This is another area where the Solar Sparrow kind of has some really standout features. So we'll start here in the back with the drivetrain. Now, this is a Gates carbon belt drive. So basically you have a nice belt instead of a chain, and there's a lot of good pros to having this. One is it's a single speed setup, so you don't need to worry about derailleurs in the back getting off-centered and out of alignment, or cable tension being bad and your shifting going bad. This is a single speed, it never jumps gears, you're always in the same gear all the time. Now, that does limit your range of gears, but they they did this with a 20-tooth cog in the rear and a 60-tooth chainring up front. And what that equates to is really efficient pedaling on flats. You can go fast, you can go slow with really kind of relatively low effort. And in hills, you can tackle most mild hills without any issues at all. And for the steeper hills, like you'll see when we go on a ride here, the pedal assist and the throttle do a phenomenal job of picking up the extra slack. Now, on top of that, a Gates carbon belt drive is not going to have all that grease and just funk that gets on your leg when you're riding a bike. And on top of that, there's no maintenance needed on these for at least 10,000 miles, which is a long time on a bike unless you're some pro cyclist, which if you are, you're probably not riding an e-bike. So for your average consumer like you and I, this just means you're not going to have to worry about the chain being an issue, the derailleur being an issue, the shifting being an issue. This bike should be solid, smooth, and more importantly, it is whisper quiet, whereas chains and derailleurs kind of have a lot of ratchety noises. This is just smooth and basically pretty much silent. So that's a strong point there as well. Now, our crankset is alloy 170 millimeter cranks, and they're attached to Well-Go flat pedals that are aluminum pedals that also have some traction on them and reflectors for visibility. Now, and when it comes to braking, we've got Tektro Hydraulic Disc Brakes with 2-piston calipers and 180 millimeter rotors. This is a very solid braking combo for almost any bike, especially a bike in this sub 60 pounds range like this one is. Braking is very good, and the levers up front, I'll show you in just a second, have adjustable reach. So based on how long your fingers are and what's comfortable for you, you can move those levers into a position that just works best for your hand reach. Now, in terms of the saddle here, we've got this Velo plush saddle, and just like it says in the name, it's a very plush saddle. Not only do we have spring supports on the bottom side, it's pretty wide for your sit bones, so you've got some extra room and some cushion just to sit on. And then on top of that, Euphree went an extra mile and added this SR Suntour NCX suspension seat post, which as you can see has a piston rod that gives you suspension travel in your seat. And while that may not look like much from a viewing standpoint, when you're riding this, you will feel this absorbing when you hit impacts. And what that does is basically, instead of having a solid piece here sending those vibrations from the ground through the bike up through your lower back, instead this will be the kind of barrier or buffer to those, eliminating most of that felt impact up through your body. And for anybody with lower back pain or concerns about that, this is kind of a saving grace that goes a long way in comfort and just everyday practicality. Now, up here in the front, we have another unique feature. This is the Unifork, which is what they call it, UNI fork. And this is a single piece of suspension with 30 millimeters of travel coming from between the head tube and the front fork. Now, when I push on this, you can see that collapse a little bit. And when I reach through there, you can feel there is a coil spring, kind of a beefy coil inside. Now, I prefer to see a coil here on this type of shock because as you'll see when we get to the mechanics section or the ownership section where we talk about things you may not be prepared for or may not know about a bike, there's going to be some pros and cons into having something a little bit unique like this. And so we'll get into that in just a few moments. Now, here in the cockpit, first things first, we have all the cables coming off of our brake levers and our throttles in these nice tie wraps going right into the headset. And this is another area where it makes the bike look very clean. You don't have the cables running down alongside the bike, giving it more of a messy look. This is very sleek, very clean, and there will be some kind of ups and downs to that as well that we'll jump into from the mechanics section, so stick around for that. But for now, very clean, very nice look. I'm kind of a fan of internally routed headsets, just not when I have to work on them. But with that said, we have the 90-degree adjustable stem here. Now, this goes a long way in helping you find a fit and comfort level that works best for you, because you can loosen this with an Allen key and you can raise this or lower this 90 degrees. So if you want to be more aggressive and down, you can put it down. If you want to be fully relaxed and upright, you can go fully relaxed and upright. The world is yours. You just set it how you like it and you're pretty much good to go. Now, on top of that, this stem has a QD lock, or a quad lock, excuse me, mount for a phone case. So if you have a quad lock phone case or a compatible phone case, you can mount it here and your phone will just sit nice and flush on the stem. It's a really nice look without adding another phone case to your handlebar, keeping things clean, out of the way, and just a nice sleek look, which kind of adds to the overall theme of the bike. Now, here in the center of this alloy bar, it's kind of a Dutch bar, which kind of comes up and backwards, swept back. We have a 31.8 millimeter bite in the center, so the thickest point where the stem bites it is 31.8 millimeters. On both ends, we have Euphree branded lock-on ergonomic platform grips. Kind of a big fan of these. They give your palms a nice resting place with that platform there. And because they're lock-on, over time, as they get weathered, as they get used more, they're not going to start spinning and becoming loose. They're going to stay right where they should, which is nice for the longevity of the bike. On either end, aside from the two grips, we also have our Tektro brake levers. which have small Allen key holes right here where you can adjust that reach I was talking about. And we have our e-bike bell on the right side. On the left side, we have our push throttle. And then in the center, we have our adjustable LED display, or excuse me, our adjustable LED headlight, 200 lux, that you can move to an angle you like and then secure it in place with the bolt there. Now, the last piece is going to be this display. So let's take a closer look at the Euphree display on the Solar Sparrow and see what features you have in there. All right, so this is the home screen on the Euphree Solar Sparrow display. Now, everything you need when you're riding is right there on the display, and there is no app for this bike. Everything that you would want to adjust, including the speed limits, wheel sizes, everything you're going to think about is going to be right here in this display. So we'll go through the basics, and then we'll go through the advanced menus. So for the basics, right here in the center, we have our speed in miles per hour, which I'll show you how to change to kilometers if you want that. On the right side, we have the battery both in a bar and a percentage number, so you can see both ways visually and with a number where the battery sits. Down below here, we have our odometers in miles, our trip in miles, and our average speed. And if you want to get into advanced settings, let's hold the plus and minus button, and that's going to take us to display settings. First, if we go into here, there's a few options. So we can do units between miles per hour or kilometers per hour. Here you can change how long it takes the bike to turn off when you step away from it. Here you can reset the trip meter. Here is the brightness level of the display. Here is you can change the strength of the Bluetooth signal. So if you want to expand that or shorten it, you can do that there. This is the numbers for the cadence sensor, how many magnets are being read during its travel. The drive mode is going to let you switch between the torque or cadence sensor. This is a really cool feature for a lot of folks, being able to switch between the two. And had I not shown you the other things, we'd have been here in just a couple seconds. So you'll just select torque sensor and you can go back. Now light mode is going to be referring to the tail light. You can either have it in a standard on or you can have it in a flashing. I like the flashing because it just creates extra visibility, more awareness to drivers around you, which is always a good thing. Now advanced settings, and here we get some extras. So right up here, we'll go to ride style, and this is where you could pick separate PAS levels. But of course, this is kind of a long-winded way to change these. You can always just change it with the up and down arrows while you're riding. No need to go into the advanced settings. So I'll just leave that on eco. Power assist. This is going to where you're going to pick between how much power is in each of those levels. So you can kind of customize those. And then we'll go to back here. And we'll go to e-bike class. Now this is cool. You could go to a class 1 setting, a class 2 setting, a class 3 setting, or unlimited. Just let the bike provide whatever it can provide. And so you've got options to go pretty much as fast as the bike can go or as dialed back as you need for whatever local laws or regulations you may have in your area. So that's also a nice feature. We'll leave it on class 2 for now. Here in the throttle settings, you can choose what type of throttle settings are set. So right now the throttle will go as fast as turbo mode will let you, but if you want to dial that throttle back, make it more reserved, make it more relaxed, you could maybe put it in tour or even eco, back out, and you have a much more relaxed throttling experience. So we'll go back here and we will go back out of the display settings and into information. Here you can change wheel size. Say you did need to tweak the wheel size for a certain reason. Speed limits, while you can go in here, you'll need a 4-digit code. The easier way is just to go back to the class settings and change between class 1, 2, 3, or unlimited. Here you can go to display info, which will give you things like serial numbers and hardware numbers. Go back. Error codes. This is a neat feature where it'll list all the error codes, and then the number next to it shows how many times they've been triggered. As you can see, we've had no issues with the bike, so they're all set at 0. We'll go back. And now we'll go into language, another very cool feature. Usually we'll see English and Spanish, but we don't always see English, German, Dutch, French, Italian, Spanish, and Czech, so that's pretty cool. I will back out. Themes will just change the color theme of the display. As I toggle through them, you'll see those colors change. I like that light blue we have, so I will leave that back. Here you can activate passwords for not only starting the bike, but you can do it for the Bluetooth unlock, so you can really set some security features on here that will make sure that no one's able to connect and just ride off with your bike. Now this says Euphree Connect with a QR code, but the reality is if there was an app, this is where you would use these features. This bike does not run on an app, and when I searched for the Euphree Connect app in the App Store, there was no app, so I just am chalking this up to from other models as part of their software program, so I believe you can just ignore that. Now if you want a factory reset, you can do that right here, and then we will exit and go back into these settings. We've hit everything. Yes, we did. We hit everything in there. So on top of that, down below here, you will see a USB port cover. I'm gonna try and get that open. And there you go. You've got a USB Type-C charging port, which I always prefer to see a Type-C these days. Just more devices have them. They're easier to work with. If you hold the up button, you will get your headlight to turn on, and you can see it's in the flashing mode right now. You can turn that off, and if you hold the minus button, you'll get the walk mode, which I'm not going to activate that because the bike will just start walking away from us here. But as you can see, everything from basic settings like language and screen brightness to speed settings, there's all sorts of features in here you can customize without needing to have an extra app on your phone and be trying to ride on the road dealing with an app and a display. So it's a really solid, clean setup that gives you everything you need. All right, guys, we're out here on the Euphree Solar Sparrow. And when you get on this bike, the riding position is kind of like you'd expect. It's kind of a Dutch city cruiser style. You've got that style of handlebar here. So you're sitting upright. Your hands kind of just rest out in front of you. And you have a nice wide cushion saddle on here. So it's very comfy. It's not stressful on your back, shoulders, palms, anything like that. There's no extra weight pushing anywhere. It's a very just relaxed and comfortable ride altogether. And with the nice low step through height you have here down in the frame, it makes getting on and off pretty easy. So it's going to be a good bike for somebody who doesn't want any fuss of aggressive riding positions, difficult to get on and off. This is really going to fit people who want just a smooth, easy, and comfortable ride. Now, as far as the motor, we've got a 500 watt rear hub Bafang motor with 75 Newton meters of torque. So it's able to push out quite a bit of power when you consider the weight of the bike only being, you know, that upper 50s, 60 poundish range. It definitely translates to a punchy ride whenever you want it. But because it's got a torque sensor and lower levels of pedal assist, you can also make it nice and just relaxed, chill ride. You don't have to get punchy with it. But for example, let's just go ahead and put it in turbo mode, hit the throttle, and you can quickly hear that motor spool up. And we're already over 20 miles an hour. And then the throttle stops at about 24 and a half miles an hour, as you can see. So I'm gonna hold it on this little 9% punch in front of us, see how much it takes away. So 22 miles an hour there, pretty good. We lost about 2 miles an hour altogether. But let's take it to more of a sustained climb in the neighborhood here. They got like a quarter-mile climb, so it's much longer, but it's less steep. It's around 5 to 7%. So let's see how that one looks and how this bike does throttling up the hill for that. All right, so we'll stop here. All right, and so let's just throttle up this hill and see how we do. So we're accelerating no problem. And this goes on for quite a ways, so we'll just kind of see how it holds. And as expected, I mean, you can see in here, we're just climbing, increasing speed. I mean, it's not even blinking at the this hill climb here. And this next section is probably the steepest part, so we'll see how it holds. So I saw one small drop here, about 23 miles an hour now. 22. Still holding at 22. Oh, there we go, 21. I touched into 21 on this speedometer. Let's go all the way to the top, but we're back in 22. And really, I've been holding this throttle the whole way up this hill. We're still at 100%. It's not chewing through the battery. We're already back up to 23, hitting into 24. We're at the top of the hill now, and we're back at 24 miles an hour on the display. So yeah, no issues at all handling hills. That might not be the steepest hill in the world, but it's a good representation of a pretty typical hill. You can see we got a view in front of us now. We got up a bit, a couple hundred feet in elevation, and it just chewed through the hill, no problem. That's where like lighter weight commuter bikes really start to shine. Fat tire bikes need, you know, 750 watt, 1000 watt motors with a bunch of torque to be able to move that mass and the rider with speed up hills. But the commuters don't need that. They can take a 500 watt motor with some good torque and a lighter frame, and you just get, you know, you get really good capability in a lighter weight package. which is where the Solar Sparrow really does shine. So we'll stop here and we're gonna go back down the hill, but this time we're gonna get going closer to that 28 mile an hour max. And then we're gonna hit the brakes and kind of just punch them and see, you know, how the 180 rotors and 2-piston calipers and the Tektro Hydraulic Disc Brakes do. So let's get this thing up to speed. Let's use the pedal assist here. It's got a torque sensor, so I was pedaling lightly, going slower. Now I'm pedaling harder, going faster. Single speed setup. I still have no ghost pedaling over 20 miles an hour, which is nice. All right, so let's start getting down this hill. See what speed we can get to. So we're at about 25 miles an hour. It looks like without using the pedals, we're gonna stay at 25. So let's do our brake here from 25 miles an hour. 3, 2, 1. So really nice stopping power, and good thing I did because she did not pay attention, which worked out well for us. So, braking is good as expected. It's a lighter weight bike with a really solid set of brakes, Tektros. So Tektros are just known for being good. It's a good brand. Every shop in America can work on them, and their performance is always what you'd expect. It's really good braking power. And just a nice simple package that gets the job done every time. So, let's get back on the path here. Now, as far as noises, I hear the motor a bit. You can probably hear it on camera. It's not loud, but it's not silent. It's pretty typical for a Bafang motor. It sounds like most Bafangs do. But I only notice it really when I'm like accelerating. Like I don't really hear it much right now, but if I hit the accelerator, you definitely hear it spooling up. And then when it gets up to speed, it kind of simmers back down. So it's more of a noise associated with how hard the motor's working in the given moment. Because right now it's working on a torque sensor and I don't hear it again. So really just something to keep in mind there. It's not really loud or making any noise unless you're just really pushing it. The Kenda tires roll very smooth, which is also what you'd expect. You've got nice commuter tread pattern on them, but they're not slicks. They still have some tread seeping and areas for traction and wet pavement, cornering, things like that, which is definitely what you want for a commuter because you're still going to be riding in the rain or on wet days after it rained, wet roads, slick roads, and when you're hitting corners and riding around, braking, you still want your tires to be able to get a grip, which these still do, and they sound really nice. They don't make any noise. And they have reflective sidewalls on them for a little bit extra visibility, which is cool. On your left. All right. Also, we have this front basket, or excuse me, we have a basket on the rear here for carrying extra gear. You have fenders front and back, and then the mono shock up front. You can kind of feel that give a little bit, eating up some of the vibrations as you hit just imperfections in the road. I think this is going to be a really solid like commuter, work or school, college, campuses, running errands, or just fun rides on the weekend. And one thing that really stands out when you ride it is, first off, they have really nice paint jobs. They've got like this metallic flake in them and a glossy finish. It looks like a car, it looks really nice. And then we have that Gates carbon belt drive that just rolls so smooth, so quiet, and it doesn't require any like derailleur maintenance. You have no derailleur on it. You don't require, no greasy chain rubbing your leg or your thigh, or excuse me, your ankle while you're riding the bike. It's just kind of a simple plug and play, get around town, do whatever you got to do, whether that's an errand, a chore, commuting to work, or just out with your friends on a nice bike ride on the weekend. It's really kind of a jack of all trades. Obviously, it's not going to be jack of all trades off-road, but it's not designed to be. It's designed to do things like this, and it really does shine in places like this. Plus, we have this massive adjustable stem here, so If you wanted to sit more upright, even more so, you could bring it back more. And if you wanted to lean more into the handlebars, you could slam it forward and do that too. So you've got some options on how you ride. But the wide saddle, the Moto shock up front, and then that suspension seat post I have on here, I mean, really, I haven't felt much in terms of bumps at all. But let's go back and put it up on a stand, talk about it from an ownership standpoint, maybe things you might not be thinking of when you're online thinking about buying it. So let's go over some of those things now. All right, so let's talk about this less in a review standpoint and more of an ownership standpoint. You're at home, you can't go visit these bikes for the most part at your local bike shop, and you have to just kind of trust the process when you place an order and hope that the bike you get at home is going to be everything you hoped it would be. So I try to point out things here that may not be as obviously seen or unseen when you're looking at the product on the website. So I'll start with what I like that you may not know about and then I'll jump into some things that may be on your radar that you may not like, or just things to be aware of in the future. I try to keep it even and balanced for you guys so you know what you're getting into when you buy a bike. Now, first things first, I'm going to start with what I like, and I'm going to start with the fenders. Now, often you guys hear me complain about metal fenders, but in this case, there's a couple solid features about these metal fenders. One is they are a thicker gauge. I don't know what it is, but it feels thicker than most metal fenders. Most feel flimsy. You can move them with your hands. These not only feel very beefy and durable, they feel just thicker and solid. They also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mounting points where they're secured, meaning this does not rattle, this does not shake, this does not bend when I bump up against it. This is a very solid, well done fender system that I think will just sit in place for a long time the way it should without giving you any just rattly headaches. So really well done job on these fenders. And then I'm going to go into the front axle here. So we've got a through axle on the front wheel. Now this through axle is a beefier, more solid way to secure this front wheel to the fork. It still comes out easy, almost like a quick release would. You simply just unscrew it with an Allen key and it pulls out nice and easy. There's no special moves to get this thing in or out, but it creates a very nice bonding, strong connection point for the wheel to the fork. And on a bike with a unifork like this, I think that's a good addition that is going to go a long way in just keeping this bike running smooth, rattle-free, and giving you less headaches when you need to do things like change a tire. On top of that, let's talk about components. So we've got a Gates carbon belt drive. We've got Tektro Hydraulic Disc Brakes. We have an SR Suntour suspension seat post. Everything on here is just name brand quality parts, which means for you, when you go to your local bike shop and say, hey, my brakes are acting a little funky, or maybe it's been a couple years, I need a brake bleed, the mechanic at the bike shop, almost anywhere you go, is going to look at that and go, oh, Tektro, you're good to go, no problem, pick it up in a day or so. On the other hand, when you get some brands that are more obscure or using much cheaper parts that are not commonly as known, then you run into a situation where the mechanic at your bike shop is going to go, I've not heard of that brand, let me look into it, see if I can find the parts you need, see what oil it uses, see what seals it has. It just may not be as easy to work on with lesser known parts. So solid job by Euphree here. We've got all name brand parts that are well known across local bike shops nationwide. So that's another strong selling point. Now, when it comes to things that I would improve on this, or not necessarily improve, they're just kind of the not bad, not great, just they are what they are. And in this case, I'm going to start with the unifork. Now, this works well. I like it. There's nothing wrong with it. And the only cautionary piece of advice I'm going to give about this is because it's not a more commonly seen suspension fork that you see, on mountain bikes and things like that. This is a little bit more obscure. It's not something you see as common. So that means that 5 years down the road, maybe 10 years down the road, if this boot rips or the coil spring inside malfunctions or a new seal needs to be replaced, it might be a little tougher to find or source those parts just because it's not as commonly seen. Kind of the inverse of what I was talking about with the components. They're all commonly known and seen in local bike shops, see them all the time. This would be something a little unique that might require a little extra attention or maybe an extra week in the shop while they order certain specialty parts. But on the other side of that, if Euphree does a good job of keeping these parts on hand for a long time, you should have no problems at all sourcing these parts. It's just kind of one of those variables that I can't see into the future, so I just want to let you know up front, just something to keep in mind. Now, the other thing in that same kind of aspect, not necessarily not known, but it will add to the labor cost and it will add to the time someone works on your bike, is internally routed headset cables. Now, are these new? Are these unique? No, everybody does them. My personal bike at home has them. My kids' mountain bikes have them. It's not new or unique, but I will say when you take it to a bike shop and you say, hey, I need to, I've added a new stem or I've added different handlebars and they need to extend the length of your brake lines. These are kind of random things, but if they do occur, Then the mechanic has to go into here, kind of disassemble the headset, mess with how these are precisely routed. Rather than cables that just kind of come down and go along the frame, these are going to be a little bit more intricate to deal with. It's not hard, it just takes a little extra time. Local bike shops deal with them all the time on high-end bikes, and that's because high-end bikes have a nice clean look like this. Just understand maintenance in this area will probably add an extra labor to your costs when you get work done. But in my opinion, the clean look is worth a little bit of extra cost. But at the end of the day, guys, a really well done bike. The Solar Sparrow rides nice, it's quiet, it's smooth, all name brand parts, no mystery rattles. I was really happy with my time on it. All right, guys, so there you have it, the Euphree Solar Sparrow. Like I said in the intro, I'm kind of a fan of Euphree to begin with. They're one of the brands that just kind of comes to mind out of a few that I kind of always go to recommend, especially in the Commuter series, which previously I was recommending the Stellar Falcon. But for people who want a lighter, sleeker version and a really well-done bike, something like this really comes to mind and might take the #1 spot in my mind. It rode silently smooth. It was fun to ride. It has lots of good power without overdoing it. You get suspension not only in the rear with the NCX SR Sun Tour suspension seat post, but in the front with a unifork and 30 millimeters of travel. This bike has a modular rack system, front to back lighting, and fenders, so really commuting wise, you have all the visibility with lighting and reflective side strips. You have the modular rack system that can let you take baskets and gear with you as you go, and it's actually secured on there instead of just tying it down and hoping for the best. It's going to be a very solid option for anybody from anything that's like commuting to work or school on college campuses, recreational rides on the weekend for fitness with friends, or just running errands and you want a nice, smooth, quiet ride to get it done. It's a comfortable ride, and like I said, quiet, smooth, and overall, I just really enjoyed this bike. Now, if you guys have any questions that I failed to answer about this bike, drop them in the comments. I'll find that out and get you that info so you have everything you need to make an informed decision before you pull the trigger. And until the next review comes out, guys, I'll see you out on the trail.